They say the hardest part of divorce is not the paperwork or splitting assets. It is watching someone you once trusted become a stranger who sees you as nothing more than a wallet. I was married to Lauren for 8 years, and we had one beautiful daughter together named Emma. When the marriage ended, I accepted my responsibilities without hesitation. I paid child support on time, every single month, showed up for every visitation, and did everything the court asked of me. Life was not perfect, but it was manageable. Then one morning I received a letter from Lauren's attorney demanding I triple my monthly payments, claiming Emma needed more for her future. Something about the wording felt off-calculated, like there was a layer beneath the surface I was not seeing. That instinct turned out to be the thread that unraveled their entire scheme. Before we dive into what happened next, I want to know where you are tuning in from. Drop your state or country in the comments. If you have ever felt blindsided by someone's greed, go ahead and smash that like button. And make sure to subscribe, because what I discovered will show you exactly why you should always trust your gut when something feels wrong. Now let me walk you through how this all began. My name is Derek, and I am a 33-year-old electrical contractor in Arizona. I work long hours, usually up before dawn, to get to job sites across the Phoenix metro area. The work is physical demanding, but it pays well enough to support myself and contribute to Emma's upbringing. Lauren and I met in college. She was studying communications, and I was in a trade program, learning the ropes of electrical work. We fell for each other, fast, got married young, and had Emma 2 years later. For a while, everything seemed solid. We bought a small house in Tempe, took weekend trips to Sedona, and built what I thought was a stable life. But marriage is tricky. Over time, Lauren grew resentful of my work schedule. I was gone early, back late, and exhausted on weekends. She wanted more attention, more time, more of everything I felt like I was already giving. The arguments became frequent. She accused me of prioritizing work over family. I accused her of not understanding that work was how I provided for the family. It became a vicious cycle. Eventually, we both admitted it was not working. The divorce was finalized 3 years ago when Emma was 5 years old. The custody arrangement was straightforward. Lauren got primary custody since her job as a receptionist at a dental office allowed her more flexible hours. I got Emma every other weekend and one evening during the week. I paid $900 a month in child support, a number the court calculated based on my income and the custody split. It was fair. I never missed a payment. I made sure Emma had everything she needed when she was with me. Her room at my apartment was filled with toys, books, and her favorite stuffed animals. I took her to the park, helped with homework, made her pancakes shaped like Mickey Mouse. Being a part-time dad was hard, but I did my best. Lauren seemed fine with the arrangement at first. She started dating someone new about a year after the divorce, a guy named Troy. I did not know much about him initially, just that he worked in sales and drove a flashy car. Emma mentioned him a few times, saying Troy was nice and funny. I felt a twinge of jealousy, not because I wanted Lauren back, but because another man was spending daily time with my daughter. Still, I kept things civil. I figured, as long as Emma was happy and safe, I could handle my feelings. Then the letter arrived. It was a Tuesday morning, and I was heading out the door when I saw the envelope from a law office tucked in my mailbox. My stomach dropped. Legal mail is never good news. I opened it right there on my porch. The letter stated that Lauren was petitioning the court to modify our child support agreement. She was asking that I increase my monthly payment from $900 to $2,700, triple the amount. My hands shook as I read the justification. It claimed Emma needed funds for private school tuition, extracurricular activities, medical expenses not covered by insurance, and a college savings fund. The letter painted me as someone neglecting his daughter's future. I was furious. Not because I did not want to provide for Emma, but because this came out of nowhere. Lauren had never mentioned private school. Emma was doing fine in her public elementary school, She was in soccer, which I already split costs for. There were no major medical expenses. This felt like a shakedown. I immediately called Lauren. She answered on the third ring, her voice sugary sweet, like she had been expecting my call. I asked her what this was about. She sighed and said Emma deserved better opportunities. That private school would give her advantages public school could not. That extracurriculars were expensive, and she could not afford them alone. I pointed out that I already contributed beyond child support. I bought Emma clothes, paid for her soccer fees, covered her birthday parties. Lauren cut me off saying it was not enough. She said if I truly cared about Emma, I would step up without being asked. The conversation ended with her saying her lawyer would see me in court. I hung up, feeling defeated. I loved my daughter more than anything, but tripling child support would financially cripple me. I was already living paycheck to paycheck. My rent truck, payment, insurance, tools for work, groceries, it all added up. An extra $1,800 a month would mean I could not afford my apartment. I would have to move somewhere cheaper, maybe even get a roommate. It would also mean cutting back on things I did with Emma during our time together. No more trips to the science museum or the zoo. No more treating her to ice cream after soccer practice. The irony was not lost on me. Lauren was demanding more money for Emma's benefit, but it would result in me having less to spend on Emma directly. I hired a lawyer, a no-nonsense woman named Patricia, who had been practicing family law for 20 years. She listened to my situation, reviewed the letter, and told me this kind of petition was not uncommon, but also not always successful. Courts do not just grant increases because one parent asks. There has to be a legitimate change in circumstances. She asked if Lauren's financial situation had changed, if she had lost her job, or taken a pay cut. I said not that I knew of. In fact, Emma had mentioned Lauren, and Troy went on a vacation to California recently. Patricia raised an eyebrow at that. She said we needed to gather evidence showing my current payments were sufficient, and that this increase was not justified. Over the next few weeks, I documented everything. I kept receipts for every expense related to Emma. Soccer fees, new cleats, school supplies, clothes, birthday gifts, the copay for her dentist appointment. I tracked every visit, every phone call, every moment I spent being her dad. Patricia advised me to also look into Lauren's spending. If she was living beyond her means and trying to use child support to subsidize her lifestyle, that would not sit well with a judge. One evening, I picked Emma up for our weekly dinner. She was chattering excitedly about a new tablet she got. I asked where it came from. She said Mommy and Troy bought it for her. I smiled, but inside my mind was racing. A new tablet was not cheap, probably $300 or $400. If Lauren could afford that, why did she need an extra $1,800 a month from me? I gently asked Emma if Mommy and Troy bought a lot of new things lately. She nodded enthusiastically. A new television, new furniture for the living room. Troy got a new watch. They were talking about getting a puppy. I kept my tone light, not wanting to burden Emma with adult problems, but I made mental notes. After dropping her off, I sat in my truck outside Lauren's house for a moment. It was a decent neighborhood, nothing extravagant, but I noticed Troy's car in the driveway. It was a newer model, something expensive. I took a photo, not sure why, just instinct. The court date was set for 6 weeks out. Patricia said we would present our case, Lauren would present hers, and the judge would decide. In the meantime, I kept digging. I checked social media. Lauren's profiles were mostly private, but Troy's were not. He posted constantly. Photos of dinners at upscale restaurants. A weekend trip to San Diego. New clothes. A picture of him holding up keys to a boat with the caption, "New toy for summer." A boat. I screenshot everything. I also started asking around. A buddy of mine knew someone who worked at the dealership where Troy bought his car. Turned out Troy was not as successful as he appeared. He was deep in debt, leasing everything, living a lifestyle he could not actually afford. The flashy car, the watch, the dinners, all of it was leveraged. He was drowning financially, but keeping up appearances. Then I had a breakthrough. Emma mentioned during one of our visits that Mommy and Troy were talking about moving to a bigger house. She said they were looking at places with pools. I asked when this was happening. She shrugged and said soon, maybe after summer. A bigger house meant a bigger mortgage, or rent. That required money. Suddenly the child support increase made sense. Lauren was not trying to provide better opportunities for Emma. She was trying to fund a lifestyle upgrade with Troy, and she wanted me to pay for it. I told Patricia everything. She said this was exactly the kind of information we needed. If we could prove Lauren was misrepresenting her financial need, the judge would likely deny the petition. Patricia filed a motion requesting Lauren's financial records, bank statements, credit card bills, income statements. Lauren's lawyer fought it, but the judge granted our request. Discovery began. When the documents arrived, it was worse than I thought. Lauren and Troy had opened a joint bank account. Deposits showed Troy was contributing to household expenses, meaning Lauren was not supporting Emma alone like she claimed. There were charges for luxury items, vacations, and even a down payment on a boat. Meanwhile, her expenses for Emma, actual expenses, like school supplies and clothes, were minimal. It was clear. They wanted my money to subsidize their lifestyle, not to benefit Emma. The court hearing arrived. I sat next to Patricia in a small courtroom, my palms sweating. Lauren walked in with her lawyer dressed professionally, playing the role of concerned mother. Troy was not there, probably advised to stay away. The judge, a stern older man who looked like he had seen every scheme imaginable, called the session to order. Lauren's lawyer went first. She painted a picture of a struggling single mother, trying to give her daughter the best life possible. She talked about private school tuition, citing a brochure from an expensive academy across town. She mentioned extracurricular activities like piano lessons and art classes. She brought up future college costs. She made it sound like I was a deadbeat dad who barely contributed. It took everything in me not to stand up and shout. Then, Patricia stood. She systematically dismantled every claim. She presented receipts showing I already paid for extracurriculars. She showed Emma was thriving in public school and had never expressed interest in private school. She highlighted that Lauren had not provided any medical bills, justifying increased expenses. Then came the bombshell. Patricia presented the financial records. She showed the joint account with Troy. She showed the charges for luxury items and vacations. She displayed Troy's social media posts, including the boat. The judge leaned forward, studying the documents. He asked Lauren's lawyer to explain why child support should increase, when Lauren clearly had additional financial support from her partner. The lawyer stumbled, saying Troy's income was irrelevant because he was not legally obligated to support Emma. Patricia countered that, while true, it proved Lauren was not financially struggling. In fact, she was living quite comfortably. Then, Patricia dropped the final piece of evidence. Through discovery, she found out Lauren and Troy were planning to buy a house together. The down payment was being saved in their joint account. Patricia argued that Lauren was attempting to use my child support payments to fund her new life with Troy, not to provide for Emma's needs. The judge asked Lauren directly if this was true. She hesitated, then said she and Troy were looking at houses, but that had nothing to do with Emma's needs. The judge did not look convinced. He asked what specific expenses justified tripling child support. Lauren listed private school again. The judge asked if Emma was enrolled. Lauren admitted she was not, but planned to apply. The judge asked about the other expenses. Lauren's answers were vague, unprepared. After hearing both sides, the judge took less than 10 minutes to decide. He denied Lauren's petition. He stated that the current child support arrangement was fair and adequate. He noted that Lauren had failed to demonstrate a genuine change in circumstances justifying an increase. He also noted that Lauren appeared to have additional financial resources through her partner, and that attempting to use child support for purposes beyond the child's direct needs was inappropriate. Case dismissed. I felt a wave of relief, so intense I almost cried. Lauren looked stunned. Her lawyer whispered something to her, and they quickly left the courtroom. Patricia shook my hand and said we did good. I thanked her profusely. Walking out of that courthouse, I felt vindicated. I had stood up for myself and for Emma. I had refused to be taken advantage of. But it was not over. A few days later, Emma mentioned during our visit that Mommy seemed upset. She asked if I knew why. I kept it simple, telling her sometimes adults have disagreements, but it did not change how much we both loved her. Emma seemed satisfied with that answer. I did not want her caught in the middle of this mess. Lauren did not contact me directly after the hearing, but I heard through mutual friends that she and Troy's relationship was strained. Apparently, Troy had promised they could afford the new house if the child support increase went through. When it did not, their plans fell apart. The financial pressure exposed cracks in their relationship. They started arguing about money. Within 2 months, Troy moved out. Lauren was on her own again. 6 months after the court hearing, my life had stabilized in ways I had not expected. I kept paying the $900 a month always on time, always without complaint. My relationship with Emma remained strong. If anything, it got better. I made sure every moment we had together was meaningful. We started a tradition of Sunday morning breakfast at this little diner near my apartment. Emma would order chocolate chip pancakes, and we would talk about her week, her friends, her dreams. Lauren eventually reached out to me not through lawyers, but directly. She called one evening and asked if we could talk. I agreed cautiously. We met at a coffee shop, neutral territory. She looked different, tired, but somehow more grounded. She apologized. She said she had made a mistake, that she let Troy influence her decisions, that she got caught up in wanting a certain lifestyle, and lost sight of what mattered. She admitted the child support demand was not really about Emma. It was about feeling secure financially while building a new life. I appreciated her honesty, even if it came late. I told her I understood wanting security, but using our daughter as leverage was not okay. She agreed. She said losing Troy was hard, but it also woke her up. She realized she had been living beyond her means, trying to keep up with an image that was not real. She was working on getting her finances in order, being more responsible. We talked about Emma, about co-parenting better, about communication. We agreed to check in more often, to be transparent about expenses, and to make decisions together. It felt like the conversation we should have had years ago. I left that meeting feeling hopeful. Not hopeful that Lauren and I would ever reconcile, but hopeful that we could be better partners in raising Emma. I also started dating someone new. Her name was Sophia, and I met her at a hardware store of all places. She was picking out paint colors for her apartment, looking completely overwhelmed. I offered to help, and we ended up talking for an hour. She was a teacher, loved hiking, and had a laugh that made me smile. We took things slow. I introduced her to Emma after a few months, and they got along wonderfully. Sophia understood that Emma came first, and she never tried to replace Lauren. She was just herself, kind and patient, and that was enough. Work was going well too. I landed a big contract installing electrical systems for a new commercial building. The pay was substantial, and it gave me breathing room financially. I was able to save for the first time in years. I even started a small college fund for Emma, something I could contribute to every month. It felt good to plan for her future on my own terms, not because a court ordered it, but because I wanted to. I also learned valuable lessons through this whole ordeal. I learned that people will sometimes see you as a resource rather than a person. I learned that standing up for yourself is not selfish, it is necessary. I learned that documentation matters. Keeping records, tracking expenses, gathering evidence, it all made the difference in court. Most importantly, I learned that being a good father is not measured by how much money you can provide. It is measured by showing up, being present, and loving your child unconditionally. Lauren and I eventually found a rhythm as co-parents. We were not friends, but we were cordial and respectful. We made decisions about Emma together. When she needed new glasses, we split the cost. When soccer season started, we coordinated schedules so we could both attend games. We even managed to sit together at her school play without tension. It was progress. Emma thrived. She made honor roll. She scored the winning goal in her soccer championship. She started learning the violin, something she chose herself. Watching her grow into this confident, happy kid made every struggle worth it. She knew she was loved by both her parents, and that was the most important thing. Looking back, that letter demanding triple child support was a turning point. It forced me to stand up and fight. It revealed the truth about Lauren's intentions. It ultimately led to a healthier co-parenting relationship. If I had just agreed to pay more without questioning, I would have been financially ruined, and Lauren would have learned that manipulation works. Instead, we both learned accountability. I think about men in similar situations, guys who feel trapped by the system, who pay, and never question where the money goes. I want them to know it is okay to ask questions. It is okay to demand transparency. Child support is meant to support the child, not fund someone else's lifestyle. If something feels wrong, trust that instinct. Gather evidence. Get a good lawyer. Stand up for yourself. I also think about the importance of being involved. I could have been bitter after the divorce, could have distanced myself from Emma, could have done the bare minimum. But I chose to be present. I chose to show up every single time. That made all the difference. Emma knows her dad loves her, not because of how much money I give her mom, but because I am there for her. The scheme Lauren and Troy cooked up destroyed itself. Greed and dishonesty always do. They wanted a shortcut to financial security at my expense, and it cost them their relationship and their credibility. Meanwhile, I built something real, a life based on honesty, hard work, and love. That is something no court order can take away. So here I am, 33 years old, single dad, every other weekend working hard, living within my means, and happier than I have been in years. Emma is my world. Sophia is a bright spot in my life. My job is steady. My conscience is clear. I stood up when it mattered, and I won. Not just in court, but in life. Have you ever been in a situation where someone tried to take advantage of you financially? Maybe an ex, a family member, or a former friend. How did you handle it? Drop your story in the comments. I would love to hear how you stood up for yourself. If this story resonated with you, hit that like button right now. Subscribe to this channel if you want more real-life stories about overcoming challenges and fighting for what is right. And please share this video with anyone who might be going through something similar. They need to know they are not alone and that standing up is possible. Thank you so much for listening. I hope my story reminds you that you have the right to protect yourself, that greed does not win, and that doing the right thing, even when it is hard, always pays off in the end. Take care of yourselves, protect your peace, and never let anyone make you feel guilty for setting boundaries. You deserve respect, and so do your kids.